Trump is facing accusations of effectively bullying the new UK Prime Minister into joining his war on Iran, as critics say Washington is leaning hard on London to compensate for US military setbacks and perceived failures on the battlefield. Burnham is portrayed by opponents as being forced to help Trump at a moment when Iran has yet to be decisively defeated, raising fears that the UK is being dragged into a conflict where the balance of advantage has not clearly shifted in America's favor. Despite large anti-war protests on British streets, Burnham's decision to align more closely with US strategy is being attacked as painting a target on the UK's back, inviting retaliation against British assets and making the country more vulnerable to blowback from the Iran war. New UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham has reportedly approved the continued use of British military bases by the United States, authorizing American forces to operate from UK soil for certain Iran-related missions described as defensive in nature. Burnham's decision explicitly allows US forces to use these bases for what London calls defensive strikes against Iran, signaling continuity with earlier policy rather than a sharp departure from the framework set under previous leadership. This shift was revealed after reports claimed Washington had pressured the new Prime Minister to stick with the line taken by Keir Starmer, ensuring that American access to key British facilities would not be interrupted by the change in government. According to those accounts, details of this US pressure campaign were outlined in a Bloomberg report dated July 21 and relayed by Iran International, which framed the episode as part of broader American efforts to lock in Allied support for the ongoing war. Trump and Burnham held their first phone call on July 20, shortly after Burnham entered office, using the conversation to set the tone for their relationship and to discuss how closely the UK would align itself with US strategy on Iran. Trump later characterized the discussion as very good and hailed what he called an outstanding relationship, presenting Burnham as a cooperative partner at a time when some other allies are more hesitant. By Trump's own account, the two leaders used that call to talk about North Sea oil, trade ties, the broader military alliance, and the tense situation around the Strait of Hormuz, signaling that energy security and maritime routes are central to their agenda. Burnham also invited the US president to Manchester for next year's G20 summit, a gesture aimed at reinforcing the importance of the transatlantic partnership and showcasing Britain as a key venue for high-level diplomacy. British media have reported that Washington specifically sought access to RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire and to the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean, viewing these locations as crucial platforms for operations linked to the Iran conflict. One US official has suggested that Trump is frustrated with other NATO allies over restrictions on basing and overflight, saying he is disappointed by those who are reluctant to open their facilities for the campaign. Starmer, when he was in office, initially rejected a US request to use the Diego Garcia base for strikes on Iran, signaling a reluctance to let Britain be drawn too deeply into Washington's offensive campaign at that early stage. That decision angered Trump, who later said he was very disappointed with Starmer's stance, using public remarks to vent his frustration over what he saw as a lack of support from a key ally. The UK government later shifted course and allowed American aircraft to operate from RAF Fairford, giving the US a practical launchpad on British soil for missions that London described as limited and defensive. Since then, RAF Fairford has become a focal point for anti-war protests, with demonstrators treating the base as a symbol of Britain's involvement in the Iran conflict and gathering outside its gates to demand an end to US bombing runs. The US military has identified the third service member confirmed killed in the recent Iranian attacks linked to the Jordan front. The Pentagon has confirmed another American military fatality, marking a new milestone in the escalating conflict with Iran. With the latest confirmation, the number of American service members reported killed in the conflict has now climbed to 18. Iran's expanding missile and drone campaign is proving increasingly deadly for US forces operating across the Middle East. President Donald Trump also addressed the latest casualties in a post on Truth Social, acknowledging the growing cost of the conflict. Despite mounting casualties, President Trump has ordered an 11th consecutive night of strikes against targets inside Iran. US Central Command statement read, and I quote, "CENTCOM forces began striking military targets in Iran at 7 p.m. Eastern Time today for the 11th consecutive night. The strikes are designed to continue degrading Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz." At 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on July 21st, US Central Command, CENTCOM, successfully completed the 11th consecutive evening of strikes against Iran. CENTCOM assets targeted Iranian military operation centers, maritime capabilities, aircraft hangars, drone storage facilities and military logistics infrastructure to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Over the past 3 months, Iran has attacked more than 30 commercial vessels transiting the international waterway vital for regional and global trade. The unwarranted attacks have endangered hundreds of innocent mariners and undermined freedom of navigation. Despite Iranian aggression, the Strait of Hormuz remains open for commercial vessel transit. Since early May, CENTCOM forces have helped facilitate the transit of approximately 900 commercial vessels and 450 million barrels of crude oil. Unquote. American forces continue striking military targets across Iran as Washington presses ahead with its expanding air campaign. US officials say the strikes are designed to weaken Iran's ability to threaten shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Military command centers, drone facilities, and logistics sites remain at the center of the latest American offensive. Iranian air defense systems were activated once again as another wave of US strikes unfolded overnight. Residents in northeastern Tehran reported renewed air defense fire as explosions echoed across the capital. Fresh explosions were also reported in Bandar Abbas as strikes continued near the Strait of Hormuz. Sirik was shaken once again as new blasts echoed across southern Iran during the latest round of attacks. Overnight explosions were also reported in Tabriz, Chabahar, and Kangavar as the conflict spread across multiple regions. Mahahar has now joined the growing list of Iranian cities affected by the expanding US air campaign. Explosions continue to ripple across multiple Iranian cities as both sides intensify military operations. Iran's air defense network remains on high alert, responding repeatedly to incoming strikes. The conflict has now entered its 11th consecutive night, with no visible signs of de-escalation. Washington says it will maintain relentless military pressure until Iran's operational capabilities are significantly reduced. The Strait of Hormuz remains at the heart of the conflict, with both sides treating the strategic waterway as a critical battlefield.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you'll have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.